Hello, lovelies. Come on in. Come into the studio with me. Get out of the cold. I hope you're enjoying the Diamond series so far. We're going on to episode 4 now. I'm Dyan Reaveley from Dylusions. I'm a ranger educator and designer, signature designer. And today in the series, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you to stamp on the boards, and we're going to be using the Clear Rocks. Okay, so we're going to be stamping on the boards, and then we're going to be creating this tile effect. Can you see where it looks? You can even hear it. I have lots more. I have lots and lots and lots and lots. So I'm going to be showing you how we get that effect. So you're going to need the medium in the dabber. You're going to need the Clear Rocks. You're going to need the boards. And you are going to need a stamp, and I stamp with a jet black archival ink pad because I don't want it to move, so we're going to be stamping with that. Okay, and did I say heat tool? Need a heat tool as well. Okay, so come join me, enjoy. So we're going to need some of the shapes. I have 3 different lots of shapes. We have the hexagons, we have the squares, these are 2-inch square, and we have the oblongs. Okay, and as if by magic, some of my stamp sets, they fit perfectly. Okay, so I have the hexagons, and did I design them for this? Yes, I did. You can use them for other things, but I designed them for this as well. So for example, you can see here, that is that one that I stamped on there. So I'm going to do one of the hexagon ones. This set is called Bits of Blocks. Okay, and this set is called Build a Quilt. That's the only square one, but there are 2 of these. I can't remember what the other one's called, but I have 2 of the hexagon ones. Okay, so the shapes, they're grey board on the back and the white on the top, so I stamp directly onto them. Okay, so let's choose a stamp. I'll take this one, and I find that the best way to do this is always use an ink that's not going to shift. Okay, so you ink it up firmly, and then to get it right, I take the shape to the stamp. Okay, so I'm going to take that there. I only put it on the block for stability, and then I'm just going to press down all over. Okay, and then I'm going to release it. You will not get a totally solid look because it's slightly textured, but I like that. I like that, you know, that's the look I like, right? So I normally stamp a lot at a time and do a lot at a time because you have to wait for this ink to be totally cured. So I'm actually going to work on this one. Okay, so by the time I've stamped maybe 10 of them and put them to one side, this is normally fine. I normally leave it an hour or so. So this one I did earlier, so I shall do that one. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need is the piece of paper. Just fold it in half and score it with your finger. Just a nice crisp score. You do need a heat mat because the heat will go through the paper, so make sure you've got a heat mat, maybe a wooden board. This is the non-stick craft sheet from Ranger. Okay, so we're going to do with this, so we need the Clear Rocks and we need the Diamond Medium Dabber. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the medium all over. Now this is a slow drying embossing ink. Okay, so you make sure you've got a good coat of that everywhere, and that's why you needed this to be dry, because otherwise it would have come off onto your dabber top. Quite a quick one, this. So take the rocks and completely cover the shape with the rocks, and then what you're going to do, you're going to pick this up, hold it at the side, tip off the excess, but there's actually extra on here. What you need to do is just tap, and the rest of it will come off. Don't tap, you know, don't bang it as it'll all come off, but if you don't tap that excess off, it will just blow away anyway. So replace this back in here. When you're using the clear, make sure you have a nice clean piece of paper. Okay, you can use it a lot, but the minute you get any colour on, you're going to contaminate this. Okay, so the rocks is thicker than a normal embossing powder. Not as thick as like a granulated sugar, but you can see it is thicker. Everybody who's got like a thick embossing powder, it will be a slightly different texture, and that's the texture of mine. Okay, and then you need a heat tool, and I always have like a scalpel or something just to lift it, because this can get red hot. We need to do 3 coats. Okay, I prefer this heat tool, not because it's Ranger, but because with this heat tool, the heat comes down and diffuses out, so it heats all around. If you have one of the heat tools that's really long, it focuses the heat, and it can be quite a bit too much and can blow it away. Okay, so, and also you can hear me. So you just hold the heat tool above, and at first nothing really happens. Your first coat takes ages. So you just hold it like this, and slowly you'll start to see around here, you'll start to see it starting to melt. Okay, you see it starting to melt in that corner? When it starts to melt, you slightly move, and can you see as I'm moving the heat gun slightly, it's starting to melt. The first coat's always very lumpy bumpy. But it's starting to melt all over, it's no longer cloudy. Now the trick is, when you've melted it all, you have to go back and make sure it's all hot. If it's not hot, your powder won't stick. So you go back, you make sure the whole square is hot, pick up the powder and throw another coat on while it's hot. I've seen some people cool them down, then add another coat of this. You're going to end up with it being very cloudy. So you put it on while it's hot. You lift it up, okay, tap it off again. Do you see that excess that comes off? And then pop it into, you don't waste any. And can you see where every bit is covered except this tiny bit here? So that little bit mustn't have been hot. So I'm going to do the second coat. Now your second coat will melt quicker. The more coats you put on, the quicker they will melt, and each coat will get smoother. I like to do minimum 3. If you're happy after 2, you could leave it, but I really like the thickness of 3. So I've melted it all. Now while this is melting, this has gone cold, so I have to go back. Make sure everywhere is hot again. I usually pick this up in this hand, but don't throw it on while you've got the heat gun on, else it'll blow it away. And then I just chuck it all over again. Okay, lift it up, whoops, tap it off. You see how much comes off? And then last coat. Now, when the powder's on like this, you could leave it. As long as you're not going to knock it, you don't have to heat this. Once the powder's on, it's protected. It's when you've got it melted that it's not. So this is going to be the final coat. I normally take the final coat off the paper and just melt it. So again, this should melt quite quickly. Can you see the heat gun's over here, but it's still melting? It's because it diffuses the heat. Even before I joined Ranger, I always used this heated tool because I used to use it for paint, and I used it for this because I just felt it gave a better effect. But if you've got one of the long heat tools, you can use it, just don't hold it as close, and waft it. Can you see where I'm wafting there? Do more wafting. Okay, now just be careful when you pick this up. This is red hot. If you are running from the FBI, this will remove your fingertips, so you'll be okay. Look at me, I'm covered in pink ink. And then you get this absolutely gorgeous tiled look, which is actually burning my finger underneath because it's quite hot. Children will need supervision with this, okay? And then when it cools, you have this really firm tiled top. Let me see, I've got lots here that I'm going to tile one of my journals with. So I'm going to do it again once more, just so you can see it. So this is the one I did earlier, but I'm just going to give it a quick heat. It's been a while since I stamped it, but I just want to make sure it's completely cured. Okay. Oh, take the dabber. Completely. Can you see you're dabbing it? Don't drag it, don't wipe it. If you drag it, you could end up pulling this foam off. So just cover it completely so you can see it glistening. Take the rocks, throw the rocks over the top. Lift it up, tap off the excess. Pour that in and start melting your first coat. Okay, make sure it's hot everywhere. One thing I forgot to say, I wanted these all to be black and white because I wanted them to resemble antique tiles. But you could paint them first. You could paint them with a colour and then you could stamp on the top if you don't like the black and white look. And you can use any stamp. I've used bigger stamps, I've used, you know, smaller stamps. These fit perfectly, but you could stamp with any stamp. Make sure it's hot all over. So that was the second. Third coat. You can tell if you're not getting it hot because when you add the powder and tap it off, you can see here how it's completely covered in the granules. If you weren't getting it hot enough, you would have shiny bits still where the powder, where it's not melted. Okay, and then this is the last. I automatically take it off the paper because in some of the videos you'll see where I stamp into it and sometimes a little bit of it can come over the edge and I don't want to stick it to the paper. So I automatically, on the third coat, take it off the paper. It also reminds me that it is the last coat as well. Otherwise you could just keep going on and on and on. And there we go. And how gorgeous. They really are gorgeous. There's another one. So this is one that's really dry. And this one is, red hot. Okay. Go away and play. I hope you enjoy with your little collection.